All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you and just like me. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about why does Bon Jovi get so much media attention in the year 2024? And back in, say, 1990, Bon Jovi didn't get this kind of media attention, and I'll explain. Um, he seems to be very much loved by the people who didn't like him for many years. All right, so before I explore that, Bon Jovi, John Bon Jovi, and his band Bon Jovi have a new song out today. It's called Living Proof, but here's some great new music for you from start to finish. The album is called Heaven Tonight. The band is Allocate. They are from Sweden, and they're really good. I promoted this band on their last album, which was called Butterfly. This one is called Heaven Tonight. And if you like the music of, say, Whitesnake, Deep Purple, and Van Halen, I think you'll dig this band here. I'm supposed to talk to the boys at some point, maybe next week. I got to send that Zoom link out. I got to remember to do that. All right, so getting on with this Bon Jovi thing. So Bon Jovi's new song is out today. It's called Living Proof. He sounds pretty good on it. He does. He sounds good on the song. I don't know, though, because obviously in the studio you can do things. And what's scary is you can do some of those things now on the road when you're performing live. I'm not saying that they use a vocal track from 2004, right? I'm not saying that, but they can do that. And a lot of people won't realize that they're doing that after they've had a couple of, $14 beers and it's late in the evening. They don't know. They don't care for the most part. And that's the weird thing. People just don't care. Although that isn't really the topic of this video. But I will talk about the song a little bit here. They actually brought back a talk box guitar effect, which I think is very cool. Of course, Peter Frampton, Joe Walsh, they were probably the first people doing that. But John Bon Jovi is talking about how they used it on Living on a Prayer, which was a really good idea. As far as Living Proof, John says, this is just a big old rock song. And it is. What's interesting is that the band has finally gotten back to being Bon Jovi again. For many years, they were trying to be some adult contemporary alternative rock thing, trying to fit in, and no. And see, this kind of goes with what I'm talking about. Back in the day, critics hated this band. They didn't want to talk about them. Maybe after New Jersey came out, they started to notice that, John was beginning to mature. His songwriting was taking on, some different topics and was a little bit more adult sounding, right? But in the 80s, for the most part, I mean, this is a hair band. This is a goofy hair band, and the critics, they weren't interested. And by the way, those are the best years for the band, really. They still are. And everybody who loves Bon Jovi would probably say, yeah. And it's not just because we're a bunch of old fogies who want to reminisce. This new album might be a better listen than some of the things they've come out with in recent years, and that would restore a little bit of hope in the future for Bon Jovi. But that's not the issue here. The issue here is the media loves talking about John Bon Jovi now. He goes to all of the right events out there, the charitable events, the things that he does. He says all of the right things when it comes to politics. Here's an example of what he wants to kind of focus on, talking about his last record, which was called 2020, which, okay, most of us want to forget about 2020, right? He says there was a lot going on during 2020, a lot of observations and different narratives about what was happening in the world around us, whether it was COVID or George Floyd, shootings in schools. And finally, we get to something that I think is very important: soldiers with PTSD. Now, one of the fallback things that rock stars like to talk about are Vietnam veterans or just veterans in general, people that have PTSD from going off to war. But notice how they never talk about maybe ending the wars, like bringing the troops home. Like 30, 40 years before they started to realize that there are people with PTSD out there, there were actual peaceniks who were saying, let's stop sending soldiers to war. I don't hear any of this. I hear, people saying, oh, we need to take care of our veterans. But it's okay within the certain neoliberal world order to talk about soldiers with PTSD, to highlight what happened to George Floyd, the shootings in schools. What else happened in 2020? They locked us down, right? He does mention COVID, but he doesn't talk about lockdowns and what they did to kids, or this wonderful, safe, and effective product, which I'm pretty sure John was a big cheerleader for, right? So what's happened since 1990? Well, in 1990, the critics and the media just looked at Bon Jovi as a goofy hairband, right? A sing-along hairband for teenage girls, right? So now, fast forward, it's 2024, and everybody is so mature. John has grown up. He's now in his 60s. He understands the world in a different way, even though the other day he said something like, I'm John Bon Jovi. I could do what I want, talking about things with relationships with regard to his wife, who stuck by him and must be a saint. She's either a saint or a doormat, one or the other, or maybe both. I don't know. Depends how bad things were. I would think that at some point, you'd take the money and run, to quote Steve Miller, because I'm sure John is worth a pretty penny. But she decided to stay. Good for her. But, how much abuse do you take? And I didn't like the way John was talking about how, hey, I'm John Bon Jovi. I'm kind of a big deal. Girls kind of liked me. Yeah, I had firsthand knowledge of that back in 1990. So the difference is John is obviously spewing out the right politics. And so the media, whatever he does, they're going to be all over it. Yeah, he's got a new song out. Let's push it out there. Let's make sure we talk about it. If this was Ted Nugent pushing out a new song and it was like his best work in 40 years or something, people would be like, yeah, oh, by the way, Ted Nugent has a song. We're not going to talk too much about it because Ted's crazy, right? But John Bon Jovi, he thinks the right way. He's normal. He's normal to us. And so therefore, we're going to elevate him from, boy band status from 1990 to, mature adult talking real common sense issues for today's world. So what's the difference? Obviously, it's the politics and the subject matter, which has changed. And by the way, I liked Bon Jovi way better when he wasn't political. Just like for most bands, right? Other than bands, that you expect to be political, Pink Floyd, Roger Waters, you kind of expected that, right? So that wasn't a big deal. There are other bands in the 80s that we all kind of just shrugged our shoulders and said, yeah, they're going to bring up some cause that we're supposed to care about. But get on to the music, man. I want to hear the songs. This isn't evangelism for left thinking. It shouldn't be, but yet for the most part, that's what the music industry is today. So anyway, just some thoughts on that. They're not super coherent thoughts, but I was just thinking back to 1990 when I got to meet John and Richie, and that was such a cool experience. And it was just about the music, right? We knew that that was something special at that moment. Fast forward to today, and everything is just like a shadow. It's a fading shadow of its former self. And it's kind of sad, but the coverage it gets, the other reason this gets so much coverage is there's not that much to talk about. There just isn't. So go listen to the new Bon Jovi song. It's called Living Proof. It's pretty good. It is pretty good. I'm not going to say it's bad. If it was bad, I would tell you it's bad, but it's actually pretty good. And please listen to this, because these guys have been around for as long as Bon Jovi has, but they're not well known here in the United States. They're kind of a thing over in Sweden. They kind of stopped doing stuff for a while, and then they rebooted things, and they're writing really good songs here. If you like that 80s style rock, Deep Purple, Whitesnake, and a little bit of Van Halen in there, you probably will like Allocate. Okay, folks, that's the video. And here's something serious you can do. Pray for peace in the Middle East and around the world. Pray that we stop sending money and weapons to foreign countries. We need that money right here in the United States to rebuild the roads, the bridges, the buildings that are all getting old. We need infrastructure, and we need it very soon. We don't need to rebuild other countries. We need to rebuild the United States. So there you have it. God bless, and I will talk to you soon.